If there's anything Serbs and Albanians can agree on when it comes to Kosovo, it's that they don't share the same vision of its history. One man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. What for one side was liberation becomes occupation for the other. In this secondary school in Mitrovica, Albanian students attending the history class are learning about Balkans Wars and World War I. For Albanian historians, this is a period of national disaster because it saw Kosovo becoming part of Serbia instead of uniting with the then newly established Albania.
The wave of injustice to the Albanians has been going on since the Congress of Berlin and the London Conference, and also during the Versailles Conference. During the Berlin and London conferences, the majority of Albanian territories remained outside the newly created state at the time, the state of Albania.
For Serbs, the Balkan Wars mean the liberation of Kosovo after centuries of Ottoman rule. To Albanians, the Ottoman occupation was simply replaced by the Serbian one, which lasted until the recent war. After the conflict in 1999, the KLA were seen as liberators by Albanians. But will these fighters ever be mentioned in textbooks used in schools in the Serbian enclave of Gračanica in Kosovo?
I don't know, maybe they will, but not in positive terms, because the KLA didn't do anything for Serbs. The students were kids, they were like 6 years old back in 1999, and we know this thing, the KLA movement, was in the works much earlier. Nothing positive for us Serbs.
Differences in history teaching can become dangerous if used to fuel conflicts and divisions. History professors from 11 Balkan states have been brought together by the Greek-based Centre for Democracy and Reconciliation to offer a new, fresh look at the region's history. They have compiled documents from the countries involved to allow teachers and pupils a look at the past from differing points of view.
The aim of the Joint History Project was to revise history teaching in different countries, not replacing national histories, but offering to teachers alternative educational materials for their teaching, so that different Balkan peoples will understand each other, will understand that they have some common historical experiences, but also these books are going to help people to understand conflicts.
The 4 texts developed under this project cover sensitive periods in the history of southeastern Europe. The essence of this approach is to offer students different versions of history and to allow them to recognise shared experiences. The concept that history can be presented from varied sources, including Serb ones, is acceptable for some teachers from Kosovo.
Why not? Sometimes we ought to see what others think about us and not everything to be from our point of view. I don't see any problem, however, if we don't agree when we speak in front of the pupils.
What's good and what's bad often depends on where you come from. This is a history class in a Belgrade secondary school. The theme, the Balkans Wars. The discourse is quite different from the one in Kosovo.
What territory was Serbia most pressed to liberate from Turkish rule? Kosovo. It's Kosovo in the region of Raska or Sandžak, where there was a Serbian majority.
Interpretations of the Balkans Wars period diverge the most sharply. This teacher uses complementary textbooks and takes the example of the Battle of Edirne. The Serbian military report says it captured the city, but the Bulgarians say they did it.
I still like the Serbian version more. I believe we should feel some national pride and that we should respect our ancestors who tried to provide a future for us.
Another example is the population figures given in the early 20th century for the broad region of what was then called Macedonia. Serbian figures show Serbian majorities, Bulgarian figures show Bulgarian majorities, Greek figures, Greek majorities. This professor says the project is a response to mainstream national textbooks, which always present their own state as the blameless victim.
These images gained in the earliest childhood may be very dangerous in conflict situations, because at the time of the wars our country was involved in, these images reappeared to provide a historical justification for the war. And both sides are, in fact, repairing historical injustices in line with beliefs they received in childhood.
Da rade nešto u ime ispravljanja istorijskih nepravdi ili nekih priča koje su oni dobili u detinjstvu.
The front lines of the recent Balkan Wars were often extended to the classrooms. An earlier piece of research on Balkan textbooks has shown discrepancies of dates. Aware that it was impossible to agree on a common version, historians working on the joint history project decided to present different interpretations rather than attempting a single so-called truth. A multiple perspective education is a good method, but there are limitations, says this history professor.
The
problem with these books is primarily a lack of consistency over certain themes. The possibility that they put a perspective on certain historical phenomena, which is very dangerous, because that may lead to misconceptions and manipulations of history.
Another limitation is the lack of official support for the joint history books. Education ministries across the Balkans have yet to give their full backing. Without this, much will depend on the initiative of individual professors and teachers.
We're trying to educate people to have critical views as they learn about political events. We're trying to develop critical thinking to avoid acceptance at face value of everything they see on TV and in the newspapers. In that way, you make them think about events in a mature way to avoid being manipulated.
Svakom događaju onako kako bi trebalo da razmišljaju zrelo I da ne budu izmanipulisani. Our aim is not to teach harmonious history, that everything was okay during centuries, but we had also some wars between each other, and we have to understand why these wars happened and why we inherited hatred. So let's say that the main aim is peace education.
Disarming history as a potential weapon is key to bringing lasting peace to a region where the guns have only recently fallen silent.